I'm livid right now. Reuben Foster was arrested 3 times in 2018, twice for domestic violence, right? He went on the road with the woman, his girlfriend, and couldn't play in the game because he got arrested the night before. He referred to this as nitpicking. Yeah. Nitpicking on a player for beating up a woman multiple. You're going to come on national TV and say this? Yeah, I don't think you guys understand how angry I am. No. Well, it's played on national TV right now. Right. Okay, then there's another thing that he points out also. He says, you know, I've got at least 6 daughters, but we're in the business of at least looking into this. You didn't look into it. You didn't even call to find out what happened. You didn't reach out to the police department. The Eagles did, and guess what they did? They didn't touch him. How can you come on national TV and say this after everything the NFL's been through? It is so embarrassing. Yeah. And it's embarrassing for this girl and every other victim of domestic violence. Calling it small potatoes, like I'm physically angry right now.
Yeah, look, I have a long history with Doug Williams. I know Doug. I've been on the road with Doug scouting. I've spent a lot of time talking to the guy, going all the way back to my time where I first started working for Washington as a scout in 2001. I've known him for a long, long time. And when I saw this, and I know a lot about that organization, look, I know how it works. And when I saw what he said, I was literally, I mean, my jaw just dropped like, man. So, Doug, look, if you're going to use the example that's being set by other people in high places, I never would have thought you would have went there. I never would have thought that you would have used that as a way to justify what you're doing and an organization is doing there in Washington in regards to this subject. And I was totally shocked. And what it also showed me was this. The leadership, although Washington is starting to do some better things as far as how they're building their football team and how they're conducting business, and they're not the laughingstock that they used to be on a broad scale like it was when I was there, this right now has brought you right back into that circle. Exactly. That you're now a laughingstock again. That now people are looking at you and saying, so let's see. You make this kind of statement. You had no plan for you had already released a statement. Why didn't you just let it be? Why didn't you just let it ride from there and take the punches you were already taking? Why did you have to go out and say this? Again, Max, you made a great point. Why isn't the team president tackling this? How many times have I said, when you're talking about issues like this goes to the very top of the organization, and that's where that decision needs to be made? Doug, why are you talking about it? Why are they letting him talking about it?
Because they made him be the perfect guy, Louis,
we already know. I know why they are.
Yeah.
Okay? Right. But the point of the matter is, see, this right now has now brought the bullseye right back on this organization again, like it used to be when I worked there. And that's not exact. And there's some good people there who didn't want that to happen.
No
question about it. And they don't deserve this to happen.
No question about it. Absolutely right on that point. And we need to also make sure we recognize this. Let's call it what it is. Doug Williams is out there. He's the black man in the executive branch, and they used him because we're talking about a black athlete in Reuben Foster that's involved in this domestic violence. And Daniel Snyder and Bruce Allen evidently didn't want to find themselves in that crosshair. That's number one. He was interviewed on Doc Walker's show. My buddy Doc Walker does a great job in Washington, D.C., by the way, with his team. But I also wanted to point out this, and it's very, very important to point this out. Doug Williams, his insensitivity, how insensitive and dismissive he came across, and how stupid it was for him to say the things that he said is a separate category. Reuben Foster and this particular woman, this is the same woman the case was thrown out last May, who recanted her story, who went on the record and said not only that she lied, but also she had a previous history, according to reports, of lying on a previous boyfriend, accusing them of the same thing. So let's understand that while we abhor what Doug Williams said in addressing the overall issue, as it pertains to the specific issue involving Reuben Foster, Molly, we don't know what the truth is.
Yeah, I agree with you, Stephen A., 100%, but I also want to add that victims often do that, and there's a myriad of reasons why we don't have time, but you're 100% right. She could have lied, but that often happens, and that often is a pattern. It's a problem with domestic violence, and I don't want all my ire to be directed towards Doug Williams because clearly he's their fall guy, and I don't think that's right, and it's cowardice as well. But now the NFL is going to have to come out and do damage control yet again.
By the way, and the NFL, by the way, has indemnified themselves well here because they have the commissioner's exempt list. Like this is not an NFL issue per se. This is a Washington issue.
But now it is, Max.
Yes, Washington made it that way.
Because they made it worse with this.
But this was a Washington issue because as the Eagles found out, right? You said
Yeah.
they did some due diligence. They called the police, and what they heard made them say, The issue with Reuben Foster, there's due process. Stephen A. brings it up. Was there enough smoke to press pause until you found out whether there was
There
fire?
absolutely was.
And there was.
There absolutely is, and that's a great point. And that's what I was sitting here kind of like trying to interrupt people to say. And that you're exactly right. There was no reason to claim him. There was none. And I'll tell you this: there's no way you should have claimed him if you didn't make any of the requisite calls to law enforcement down in Tampa before you would claim him. Even if you're going to say, look, he's not going to play, he may not play this year, he may not play at all. If you're going to claim a guy, you better know a little bit more than that, than what you found out, which was nothing. And see, now, I'm just telling you, the leadership here and the decision-making process here is really, really annoying and disturbing as far as why people at the very top of this organization aren't speaking out about this.
What
and why they
leadership?
didn't take responsibility for this. And now Doug is left to go out there and make comments that, quite honestly, I'm sure he's probably, maybe if he's watching this show or if he went back and talked to some people about what have I just done? Because right now, everything is kind of in disarray down there. And it's unnecessary because this is actually pretty simple as far as the protocol you should go through in order to handle this kind of situation. And they acted like they had never seen something like this before.
The bottom line is they didn't do their due diligence and they rationalized domestic violence as an organization. That's exactly what came out with that statement, and it's unfortunate.